Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Broadland District Council Cabinet meeting. And again, just to remind everybody that this is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. So, item 1, declarations of interest. Okay. Items 2, apologies for absence.
We received apologies from absence from Councillor Wymark.
Thank you for that. Minutes of the Cabinet meetings held on the 26th of April and the 12th of May. So start with the Cabinet meeting of the 26th of April. Anything in there for anybody? If not, I'll sign those off as being correct. Okay. And then the Cabinet meeting of the 12th of May. Anything in there that needs attention? No? Okay. Well, I'll take that as correct. I'll sign those off as well. I'm not aware of any public speaking. I don't think there is any. No. Looking around the room, no, we don't have any non-cabinet members other than Martin from ONS, who I assume you will talk under ONS, so no non-cabinet members. So moving on to ONS, item 7. Martin, anything you want to say at this point as chair of ONS, or do you want to come in as and when? Yep, okay. Let me know and I'll do my best to spot you. Item 8 then, Economic Success Policy Development Panel.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like Cabinet to receive the minutes of the Economic Success Panel, which was held on the 25th of April. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. We will receive those minutes. Moving on to item 9 on page 23, the Wellbeing Policy Development Panel. Again, I would ask Cabinet to receive those minutes, if that's okay. Yeah, in Fran's absence. Moving on then to item 10, Service Improvement and Efficiency Committee. Jonathan?
I'd just like Cabinet to accept those minutes from the Service Improvement and Efficiency Committee, and we obviously have the planning case coming on tonight's papers.
Okay, thank you for that, Jonathan. We will receive those minutes. And that moves us on then to item 11, the Strategic Performance and Finance Report for quarter 4, 21-22, starting at page 35. Are you starting, Jonathan? Jonathan. Apologies, Rodney. Are you starting? It goes back to an earlier comment, I think. Who's going first, Sinead?
Yeah, thank
Please.
you. Thank you, Chair. I'll make a start. So I'll cover a high-level overview of the performance part of the report, and I'll hand over to Rodney, who will cover the finance section. So just in terms of a summary to the report that you have in front of you today, so in Appendix 2, you have an overview of the delivery measure performance for 21-22. That's both for quarter 4 and also for an overview of the year-end position. And these are based on the performance metrics that members set out in the 21-22 delivery plan. And also this year we have an update of the 21-22 delivery plan, just to give you a year-end position in terms of the progress we've made against the activities before we move into the 22-23 plan. So just in terms of performance at year end, just to give you a summary, 15 of the measures from our delivery plan are green, which means they have either met or exceeded the success criteria we set out in our delivery plan, which is really positive. 9 measures at year end are amber, which means they have missed our year end target by a slight margin, and there's some detail in the appendix to provide an overview of what those measures are. And then finally, 2 of the measures at year end are red, which means they have missed the year end target. Both of these are within the planning department. So this is the percentage of decisions made within the statutory timescales, and this is both for householders and minors others. So just to delve into this one a little bit, both of those metrics at year end are below the targets that we have set. However, looking at the performance data in quarter 4, both have seen an improvement in performance moving from quarter 3 into quarter 4. So it's showing a positive trajectory, which is positive. For minors and others, moving from quarter 3 of 79% up to 89% in quarter 4, which is a positive trajectory. And then in householders, moving from 76% up to 91% in quarter 4. In the delivery plan, as I mentioned, we have updated the activities to date to provide an overview of whether the activity in 21-22 has been completed, whether it's been moved to the new 22 to 24 delivery plan, or whether that project has been stopped, in a summary to provide an overview of what's happened with those projects. I'll pause there. We do have a number of the directors and ADs in the room for any questions on the detail.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you want to go now, Jonathan? God, I don't know. Jonathan, do you want to go now, or shall I hand over to Rodney? I have to get a badge put there, guys. It's just gone in there. I'm really sorry, Rodney.
That's no problem at all.
I will do it again. Indeed, that might change it now. Yeah.
Right,
Okay, over
so
to you, Rodney.
Just want to quickly report on the financial position at the end of the financial year, quarter four. I'm very pleased to report that the financial position is strong. The council's had a good financial year. We've received additional one-off income, and we've identified various savings and efficiencies, many of which will carry forward into future years and potential budget savings in future years. So the outturn positions presented at the moment are still the provisional outturn figures. The final figures will obviously be part of the formal statement of accounts that will be presented to the audit committee later on in a few weeks' time. Very much for the revenue position, the outturn on our net costs of services was 11.4 million, which is very much in line with what we were expecting at the quarter three position. So again, that's a good news that our forecasting at quarter three has actually proved to be quite reliable. And on capital, we've spent £13.4 million on capital schemes. And it's probably worth noting that's probably the most this council has spent on capital schemes in many of a year. There are two requests for yourselves to look at. First of all is about the couple of underspends on revenue, where we're asking in paragraph 3.15 your agreement to move these underspends to earmarked reserves, and in 3.17 where there's been some slippage in capital programs, again requesting your agreement to actually carry forward these budgets into future years. But that was all I was going to say in the report. The detail is there for you to ask any questions. I would, however, just like to finalise by stating that the recommendations are as per page 35, not as per 48. There's an error on page 48. So when you take the recommendations, if you could look at page 35 instead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Rodney. Trudy, did you want to come in at this point?
Yeah, thank you. I'm pleased to see, obviously, the prediction of the outturn in quarter three has come to fruition pretty much. There was just one thing I wanted to query, because it's unusual for us to have the housing benefit payments and the benefit and housing payments to be read. Prevention is better than cure, and we normally manage to prevent a lot of housing benefit overpayments. I notice, however, on page 51, appendix 1, the last page, that there is an explanation there that about the ongoing effects of the pandemic in both cases. I just wondered if it's at all possible to use COVID funding to replace that.
That would be perfectly acceptable, as in normally we do quite well at recovering housing benefit overpayments. I think you need to take into account that actually we make about £15 million worth of housing benefit overpayments. So a variance of this size is actually quite small on the over budget quantum. But as a lot of the impact was because of COVID, it would be acceptable to actually use our unspent COVID monies to cover that overspend.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how do we do that? Do we just take it as I've just said it, or does it have to be another recommendation? Or
I could just amend that for when we take the accounts to the audit committee for final approval.
Okay, thank you for that.
Perfect, thank you. And then I just wanted to, regarding performance, I just wanted to highlight obviously measures 7 and 8, the council tax and the business rate collection, phenomenal. 0.1% has meant it's amber instead of red, but which is frustrating, but it's a better performance than last year. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. But other than that, I'm quite happy to propose, the recommendations on page 35. As Rodney said, page 48 is incorrect. So recommendations 1 to 5 on page 35. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Trudy. Jonathan?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any other points, questions from anybody? Joe?
I just want to add that on page 45, growing the economy, we've attracted £50,000 in Q4 for external funding to support growth. And the £50,000 is for the installation of changing place toilets at the Raw Dinosaur Adventure Park and also the Blickling Estate. And I know that's something as a council that we've wanted to get into our tourism attractions to enable more disabled people to be able to use those venues. So I just want to say well done and thank you for adding that to the report.
Okay, thank you for that. Judy?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to draw attention to the fact that measure 24, the percentage of food businesses with a food hygiene rating of 4, which is good, or 5 is very good, is 98%. And that means that's a total of 958 food businesses within Broadland. So I think that's a very good performance, and that means our outlets are all safe. And I'd also just like to draw attention to measure 28, which is residual waste, and that has reduced, not a lot, but it has reduced, so that's definitely going in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's good to see that the residents of Broadland can be comfortable, or even tourists to Broadland can be comfortable that when they use the restaurants that they have a high hygiene standard. Sorry, Rudy, I've got a question on the finance that I've just spotted. Sorry about this, so I haven't pre-warned you. On page 50, under the place where it's got car parking and public conveniences, it talks about an offset saving in waste, but I can't see it in waste on page 51.
That's because the offset within waste is within that overall figure of 106 variants on that, not waste. It's not separately identified. But essentially it was the people who were cleaning the public conveniences used to be in the waste team, which is where their budget was held. When it was sort of provided by a contractor, we didn't move the budget over. So there's a technical overspend on car parking, but a technical underspend on the waste as well to compensate.
Okay, thank you for that. So the £80,000 that's been removed as a saving from this year's budget, as in the next year's budget, in relation to that, how does that sit alongside that then? Because obviously 80 plus the 46 doesn't equal 106.
There are.
I'm not adding up the right numbers,
Yeah,
am I?
there's quite a lot of contravariances within that figure. The 80,000 saving removed from next year's budget, a lot of that is a clinical waste saving that would have been removed from obviously the different arrangements going in place for that. But we can provide a further breakdown on the 106 if that would be useful.
I'm happy if you say it's in there. So thank you for that. Ian?
Thank you, Chair. Bit disappointed to come in as the new portfolio holder and to see I've got a couple of red flags against my name already. Hey, I'm sure there'll be more.
Pull your finger out, Ian.
But also good to hear that moving forward into Q4, we're moving ahead. And I guess that brings me on to item 16 on the agenda, that you might look favourably upon that. But thank you.
Okay, thank you for highlighting that one. Jonathan?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the obviously the measure number 1, which is the collaboration savings and everything like that, that's still a very positive result. And also measures 4, 5, and 6, which are the staff measures. I think it's a really positive to see some good figures there and everything like that. And obviously the number 2 and number 3, which are the baseline figures for the customer satisfaction and obviously the staff satisfaction. I'm hoping that obviously we're doing a load more work on the customer satisfaction, and that will obviously give us some good figures next year. I believe that will come straight in as really good figures. And I hope that now we have done the work on the accommodation, but the staff satisfaction will shoot up as well when we can measure that. So that'd be brilliant.
Okay, thank you for that, Jonathan. Am I correct in thinking those will start to report in Q2 figures that we see later this year? Yep.
Yes, yeah, both of those will be reported in Q2.
Brilliant. Okay. I just wanted to remind people, I guess, and the one I'm just going to pull out is on page 60, relating to empty homes. And again, just to emphasize the good work that's going on across the district to reduce the number of empty homes. Say in 2022, there's only 242, which is a significant drop from where we were before, and we were already performing well. So again, thank you for the team for doing that. Okay, so that moves us on then to the recommendations that have been put before you and seconded. They are the ones on page 35 for clarity. All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you for that. Okay, so that then moves us on to item 12, licensing services, service enhancement options on page 176. Are you introducing this one tonight, Nick?
Chair, thank you very much. Will do. I'll keep it brief for you. I think it's not the first outing for some members present to hear this report mentioned, so I'll keep it as brief as I can for you. The two reports that follow, the licensing and then the food safety, follow an identical format, so that might help to abbreviate things as well. Most of the arrangements mentioned in the first pertain equally to the second, and most of the questions arising in Service Improvement Efficiency Committee and an Overview and Scrutiny Committee also related to both reports, so that could be helpful. Well, Delivery Plan 22 to 24 contains specific provisions, item R4, for bringing service enhancements forward, and that's why these papers are here. Our regulatory services are ultimately responsible for protecting the public, promoting community safety and promoting a level business playing field, and that's really important, and that's where we think these services will help also. We have this year a one-year pilot of a one-stop business regulatory support hub. That is providing free advice and information to all businesses, and we've published a single point of contact number for that. Our business regulatory support hub coordinator is making every effort to open the channels and to promote proactively all of that information to businesses. Those aren't priced items that are service enhancements. That's already in the standard offer of the council's services. What is being proposed here is a series of service enhancements that will add to the existing statutory services and go beyond those statutory services. And the recommendations are for the income at a full cost recovery level and no more, which aligns with the commercialisation strategy that members have approved. The proposals are that the income will be reinvested within the team so that we don't diminish the statutory capacity, but we can offer the additional services as well. Our businesses will tell us that support services will be welcomed. And of course, they're elective. They can choose to take them or not. These prices are low compared to what the private sector will be expected to offer. And the council is a trusted supplier of services. Whether as a food business, you always want to see the health inspector when you're already busy. And so we expect that these services will be welcomed by the businesses that could most use them. That the businesses tell us that they like the professional expertise and support to be available when they would wish for it. Two last things probably to mention. There will be a conflict of interest policy that will ensure that we hold a line between statutory services and the enhanced services, so that we won't be crossing a line between the two. So that's one thing to say to you. Another is that we have been offering some free 30-minute consultations to some licensing applicants, but we haven't been able to offer those to all licensed drivers, for example. The intention is and the proposal is to put in place a 30-minute charge, and we have found that there's been a high no-show rate, but equally we want to make sure that we can make that offer available to all drivers, and hence it's got a cost recovery basis and no more in the report. Chair, I think that probably brings to an end the things that I need to say to you, but it may be helpful just to say, who's going to benefit from these? Number one, a publican perhaps new to the area whose most important concern is that they get their license quickly, because there are contracts and costs that depend on it. Number two, a prospective new private hire driver who's struggling to fill in forms or has got something on their track record that they're worried about and they want to work that through with the licensing officer, but it's going to take some time. It's not a 5-minute constant question, which we would, of course, do as a free response anyway. Finally, if there's a licensed premises or event operator that wants to expand significantly and they're worried about impacts on neighbouring residents, for example, and they need a site visit, these are the sorts of things where we would aim to include an enhanced service offer. So typically it's where a visit will be made, travel will be incurred, and bespoke advice will be offered. If I draw a line there, that outlines the report, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Judy?
You're just supporting. Right. As we've said, this is identified in the council's development plan. It is an enhanced service for those residents who wish to take part in it. They don't have to use it, and I think that's the main thing to stress. You've got the fees divided in Appendix 1. No, you haven't. You've got the details in Appendix 1 and fees in Appendix 2. And there will be a pilot for a year. And before that pilot, that time is up, there will be, there'll be a review of the Business Regulatory Support Hub, which has already been in operation for 6 months. So with that, I would recommend the recommendations on page 176, that Cabinet to authorise the piloting of enhancements to licensing services at full cost recovery for a 12-month period starting in 22-23, and Cabinet to agree the reinvestment of income generated from the service enhancements to licensing activity into the Council's regulatory licensing service, so as not to impact on the regulatory service capacity.
Okay, thank you for that. Judy, Trudy, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm happy to second it. I just got one question, really. Once you've done the pilot, is there any reason why this couldn't be operated at a profit if it was going well? Does it have to just break even?
There's absolutely no reason why it couldn't operate at a profit. We've brought forward these proposals in a pilot year on a full cost recovery basis, and that means that there is no income incentive, if that might be create any uncertainty for anyone. But there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't offer on an income generating basis, and there are authorities that do precisely that.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, Joe?
Just a couple of things, really. First, in 4.3, it says this doesn't replace the existing provision of free to access but remote. I just wonder what remote means. Is that just a telephone service? And then something else that slightly concerns me in 6.2 on page 180, the second paragraph, care needs to be taken to ensure that the council does not double charge covering advisory costs for our overall licensing fee and then charging again. And it says this will be looked at as part of a review scheduled for summer 22. So I just need some clarification on that and understand the governance around watching double charging taking place, because I think we need to sort of protect our business community fairly. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Joe. Did you want to come back, Nick?
If it assists, there will be no double charging. These are enhanced services over and above existing services, but that was a standard rider in legal advice received, and it's been incorporated into the report. On the prior matter that you mentioned, using the word remote, perhaps the senior manager can answer that for you.
Is in relation to telephone inquiries, as you rightly mentioned. We're looking to develop the enhancement where we can provide that in person, bespoke advice at premises in question.
Yeah, please do, Joe.
Thank you. Just going back to 6.2 and the question of double charging that is in the second paragraph. The last part of that paragraph says this will be looked at as part of a review scheduled for summer 22. Is that just a mistake? Should that be summer 23? Thank you.
No, we're doing a review of the licensing fees and charges that will be coming through summer 22. We're working through that. We've received some updated information on overhead costs, and that's will be coming forward very soon in the forward plan.
Okay, thank you for that. Phil, I understand you want to clarify something for us.
Just a very quick point of clarification, perhaps a slightly pedantic point, but just in terms of that profit, we can't make a pure commercial profit necessarily, but if we were using that money to recycle back into the department, the service, but not just, can we make it as a money spinner effectively, for want of a better phrase?
Why
We
is
can look
that?
into it. We can look into the details of it, but
Just to help out, as a local authority, we can't do anything that would make a profit. We're allowed to do cost recovery. That can be cost towards things like the software provision, training of staff, etc. If we wanted to make a profit, we would have to do that as a separate enterprise, and that would have to be through a limited company.
Sorry, how does that work? Because that doesn't seem to sit with some of other things that are currently going on. Like, this isn't a statutory service, so I understood we could charge effectively what we chose to charge.
You're still not allowed to make a profit. If you want to do trading, you have to do that through a limited company. So under Localism Act, we're absolutely able to do trading and make a profit. But yes, as I say, it has to be under a company recognised under the company's law. So we can do full cost recovery. And as I say, those costs can include ancillary items like training and software.
Okay, I think that's opening up something we probably need to explore further at a slightly different point in time, because I'm not quite sure that sits with the words that are being used and the way in which we're expressing them. So I think there might just be a mismatch in the communication, but it's something we just need to perhaps go through outside of this, because it's not linked to this paper, but it's linked to our overall approach to certain things. So we probably do need to work our way through that one. I had a couple of questions as well, just looking around, can't see any. Oh, Martin in a moment as well. Looks like he wants to come in. On the, you mentioned about the service and going out to people and things like that. So what happens today? Do we not do that, or do we do that?
We have the chance to see manager will have the detail. Our officers have gone out to individual businesses to offer some extended support. Often it might be if there's a non-compliance or if there's a new business raising questions. However, our officers haven't been doing that in a way that we could sustain across all the businesses we would wish to offer this support to. So it hasn't been sustainable. And with the advent of the commercialisation strategy, of course, we're now coming out of COVID, so this is our first opportunity to bring this. We're now in a position just to regularise that, but ensure we can offer this enhancement to all businesses and not to the few who first were to ask for the time and support of the environmental health officers or licensing officers.
Yeah, no, as you say, it's something we do where we can at the moment. Hopefully we can offer it as a wider service and cover the costs incurred with that. So, yeah. So how will people actually pay, and at what point do they pay? I guess was my other question.
We'll be looking at book and pay service, and we're developing some work with a forms provider. So we're looking to use that as a mechanism where we can use that same payment system to take payment for service requests as we see them. It's work to be done, not least with work around our computer systems as it is, but it's a pilot, and we're looking to find a way to make that as clean and as efficient as possible to reduce our transaction costs.
Nick?
Just to say, in the meantime, we can take card payments from businesses, of course, for service enhancements in the usual way.
So someone would book it, pay for it, and then we'd go and deliver it as such.
We would expect to take payment in advance of offering the service.
Okay. My other, I guess my last question at this point in time, although don't hold me to that, is in relation to the recommendation itself, and just picking up on something you said, just looking at 8.1, where it talks about full cost recovery. Should that not be the fees as a section 6.1 in that table rather than at full recovery? Because that's what the fees are, because they're not going to change, are they?
We've referred in the report, it summarised the fees. We've included them in Appendix 2, and the structure of the report refers to as proposed at Appendix 2. That might be slightly clumsy in that it's not directly referenced in the recommendation.
It's not in the recommendation because it just talks about full cost recovery. So sorry, just going to Appendix 2. Yeah, so again, it's got the same table in there. Yeah, so it should relate to the fees at Appendix 2 or not?
Yes.
Should it stay as full
the
cost
fees are
recovery?
as proposed at Appendix 2.
Okay, so we just need a minor amendment on the recommendation. Okay, yep. Martin.
Thank you. Whilst the officers have explained about that this is an enhanced service, I don't think that came through in ONS to certain members, and therefore they proposed an amendment to the recommendations. It was item 3, Cabinet to ensure that the current free advice is maintained alongside the new proposals, even though it's an enhanced service rather than anything to do with the statutory service.
Okay, so if I've understood that, what they're asking us to do is carry on doing what we're doing. Okay, it seems from what I hear, we're doing that. So, okay, not quite sure we need to incorporate that at this point.
No, it was recommended by ONS.
Okay. We will continue doing what we are currently doing, won't we, Nick? And your team will commit to doing that for us?
Chair, absolutely. We will do. The only exception to that is that these 30...
No, I don't want exceptions. You heard
Yes.
what ONS said.
Absolutely.
Are we going to carry on doing what we currently are doing?
We'll carry on doing what we are currently doing and offer the enhanced services.
Excellent. It's the right answer. Okay, so anything for anybody else? No? Okay, so we've had the recommendations on page 181 proposed and seconded. And again, just to remind you that recommendation 8.1 has been amended from the phrase at full cost recovery to insert something along the lines as the fees as Appendix 2. Yep, that sounds like it covered it because the monitoring officer is nodding. All those in favour? Thank you for that. Okay, so that then moves us on to the food safety services, service enhancement options on page 186. Back to you, Nick.
Chair, thank you very much. So there may be a feeling of deja vu because the same format of report is proposed.
We're going to ask you different questions this time.
Please feel free. And of course, this refers to food safety instead. So just to give you an example, a new business starting up may very well wish for advice and support before they start to avoid making costly mistakes. And that is the purpose of this service. It's an on-site, bespoke support service. It will deal with the matters of most concern to the new startup business. It's a substantial package. It's something that in other parts of the country has gone down very well with businesses. And of course, it's an option that businesses can choose to take or not. We are in environmental health services acutely aware that businesses can spend an awful lot of money and sometimes make some very expensive mistakes. And we would wish to help them to avoid that so they can grow and prosper in the usual way on a firm footing where they're confident of compliance from the start. That can include staff training elements, systems, procedures, layouts of premises, such things as that. The second key product is a between inspections visit that could be offered were a business to want to know, how am I looking as I look ahead to my next food hygiene rating? And we do know that businesses increasingly do rely on the customer footfall generated in connection with their food hygiene rating, not least takeaways that rely on a Just Eat or Deliveroo service. And that tends to be contingent on having at least a rating of 3 in order to be able to benefit from that platform. So that would be an in-between visits, on-site assessment and support again. So they're the two examples I would offer you just by way of illustration. I should just highlight a slight mistake. The proposals, the same wording correction might be helpful in the recommendations, as was mentioned on the last report, but there is something at Appendix 3 that refers to a slightly different figure for new business startup. It says £152 instead of 156. That is a typographic error. But in the paragraph 1.6 of the report and Appendix 2, which are the key references, the correct figure is used, and that's £156. And I'll stop there, Chair.
Okay, thank you for correcting that. So, Judy?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I don't really think there's anything else I need to add, apart from proposed recommendations at 8.1 and 8.2 on page 191 with the insertion of full cost recovery, comma, as described in Appendix 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Trudy?
Happy to second, and I'm not going to ask the same question again.
I guess the same will apply. So, yeah, we will have that debate. Okay, any questions for the team? Joe?
Thank you. Just a question about the training workshops, really. Where are you proposing to hold the training workshops? Because obviously we have our facility at Carrowbreck House, and it has actually got kitchens installed in part of the building. Would that be something that we consider having at Carrowbreck, please?
You're exactly right again. Carrowbreck is where we were looking at. We've delivered training courses on allergens in the previous past. We're looking to use some DEFRA funding money to improve that training package, the presentation content, and then be in a position to deliver that with our existing EHOs being the tutors.
And I can see the evil eye over there from the Assistant Director for Business Development, who's already raising the invoice for you. So he's got a smile on his face, so that's good. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, so we've had the recommendations proposed and seconded on page 191 with the amendment around the services at full cost recovery reverting back to the fees as in Appendix 2. All those in favour? Okay, thank you for that. That moves us on then to the energy rebate scheme. And that's at page 196. I'm talking more slowly to give them a chance to change over. So is this you, Mike?
Thank you, Chairman. And just we come in force as we always do. Just to cover it for Lindsay, will go for the report, Chairman. Just to update a couple of amendments just to start the ball rolling. It's my error completely. I should have put housing and wellbeing and finance as a portfolio holder. So apologies to the portfolio for that, because this is a cross-cutting theme. And also, when we look at the recommendations, if I could suggest that as well as the appropriate portfolio holder in future consultation, we would be looking to work with a portfolio for finance and for housing and wellbeing. And I think part of the issue here we've got tonight is this is retrospective permission. And the reason that these things have come so fast and so quick, the moment Rishi opens the door, we start to get phone calls. And so what we did, we took some advice from Councillor Weimark to try and push this forward quite quickly. What we're looking to do is try and find a mechanism for this report and other mechanisms to get money out the door quicker. So I'll allow Lindsay to go through, Chairman. Just a couple of points to note there to start with.
Okay, thank you for that, Mike. Lindsay?
Thank you very much. Hello, so I'm here today to present the paper for the energy rebate scheme. So the paper outlines the main points of the scheme, and it also outlines the criteria for the discretionary element of the scheme as well. So just for clarification before I start, this is what the government has termed the council tax rebate scheme. However, to clarify that it's not part of any other council tax rebates that we offer, we've termed it the energy rebates for any external and internal communication. So that's what we'll refer it to in this paper. So just to give some background, the scheme allows for £150 to be paid to all households in bands A to D, where the council taxpayer is where it's their main home. For anyone who's paying by direct debit, we've been able to pay the money straight into their bank account in the majority of cases. There have been a few anomalies that, due to the fact that their bank account names don't match, for example, we've had to do them manually, which has caused a little delay in a very small amount of cases. But for the majority, we've successfully been able to pay them, and that work has now been completed. For the non-direct debit payers, where we don't hold their bank accounts, they have now all been sent a letter telling them how to apply for their payments, and that's what we're currently working through at the moment, and we've paid about 50% of those so far. So all in all, we've paid over 90% of all the residents who are entitled. And what we've also put in there as well, that if we don't get any contact from a resident, then we will credit their bill with the £150 automatically. So anyone who hasn't been able to contact us for whatever reason, they will still get the money they're entitled to. So nobody will lose out. So as part of this, we've also been allocated some money for a discretionary fund. And what this will do is will help us to pay people who are not covered by the main scheme. So, for example, people who are in houses of multiple occupation where the tenant isn't the liable party for council tax. It will also help us to pay anyone in band E to H who is struggling with their fuel bills as well. And it also allows us to pay top-up payments to anybody who has already received some money but is still in fuel hardship, and it will allow us to pay a little bit more if we deem that that is suitable. So the eligibility for the discretionary scheme was able to be determined at local level, and the criteria for this you can see in Appendix 1. The criteria for this requires member oversight, as Mike has said. However, due to the time frame of the governance process, it was deemed that were we to wait for this, it would delay getting payments out to people who actually need it there and then. And because there has been a lot of press around this as well, we were also getting a lot of queries about this. So that's why we have actually designed it and put it in place at the moment, and we are retrospectively going through the government process to seek permission for the discretionary criteria. In addition to this, again, as Mike says, we've also received a number of funds funded by the government, similar in nature, for discretionary payments to be paid to people who are suffering hardship. And we do expect this to continue due to the continued increase in the cost of living. And so we imagine we will get more funds to distribute to our residents. So therefore, we are also seeking for Cabinet to grant delegated permission for the eligibility for this and for future schemes to be designed by the team and decided by the Assistant Director, the Section 151 officer, and the relevant portfolio holders as well. So that will allow us to deliver help to our vulnerable residents in a timely manner without any delays. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Lindsay. Richard, are you joining in?
My only point of clarification, just in case, because it will go onto public record, is when you said we will credit their bill, just to make sure it's not the energy bill, it will be their council tax bill. That's the only mechanism we have. Just a point of clarification.
I have a question about that, but I'll come back to that when we've done the other bits. Okay, Trudy.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I spoke to the officers today, and I understand Fran authorised this anyway, but as I would have done as well, I understand it's retrospective, and I do understand why. And to me, it's very similar during COVID when we had to deal with all the grants and the business rates and so on. So I've got no issues with this, and I'm happy to put forward recommendation 8.1 on page 200 as amended by Mike when he mentioned the relevant portfolio holders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Trudy, Joe?
Yes, happy to second those recommendations as amended by Mike. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
Who seconded it? Sorry, I was distracted. Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. I've actually been asked to add something into the recommendation, so I might as well do it at this point, as I was rude enough not to listen to what you said. So at 8.1 on page 200, the recommendation needs to read for this and future discretionary payments, because this one obviously is there. So if Trudy and Joey, you're happy with that amendment? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that. And obviously the other changes in there, that the appropriate portfolio holder, as Mike mentioned, being both finance and housing and wellbeing. Any questions? Okay. Again, commend you and your team for getting this out as quickly as you had and taking the steps you had. So thank you so much for doing that. And hopefully the people that have been in receipt of this are pleased with what you've done. My question related to credit the bill, how does that work? Do we adjust direct debit payments if they pay by direct debit, or if they've paid in full, how do they get a refund, or will that be next year?
Well, the actual details of how it works on the system, I don't know. But yes, it will be a credit, as though someone has paid £150 onto their council tax bill. So it will sit there as a credit. If they have paid in full, it will just look like they've paid £150 too much, and therefore they can ask for it to be refunded if necessary, or it can sit there to go over onto next year's bill as well. So, but the point is, the money will have been paid. We will have got the money out by the time frame of September, and the money is there on their bill waiting for them to do what they want with it. So yes, it will be there as a credit.
Okay, thank you for that. Did you want to come back in, Richard?
I just wanted to finish that. We need the mechanism to get the money out to make sure that we don't have to give it back to central government. So the best mechanism is to pay it onto the council tax. Then the mechanism of how they then get that money after that is within our time frame and our destiny, rather than the government set time frame.
Okay, thank you for that. I have one other point, which is 7.2, and it's the last part of that sentence. Just a little uncomfortable where it says, without having to go through a formal governance process. What you're introducing here through the delegation is the formal governance process. It just, there's different ways of doing it. So I just wanted to highlight that in case anyone's reading this paper and thinking we're doing this in a strange way. So
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah.
okay, if there's nothing for anybody else, so the recommendation as amended is on page 200 at 8.1, which has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you for that. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you all.
That moves us on then to item 15, being the planning business case appointment to new vacancies and updates to the structure, starting at page 206. I think, Ian, you wanted to come in first before I hand over to Helen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, being new to the bill stand, like with the red flags earlier on, haven't seen the proposal by Helen. I hope you guys will support us. Thank you. Over to you, Helen.
Okay, Helen, hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just give a very quick overview of the key points. So we're creating additional posts to focus on our strategic growth agenda. What's really pleasing for me is that we are proposing to create 2 more apprenticeship roles on top of the 3 we already have. Clearly, we need to ensure we have the additional income to finance what is additionality to the base budget of just over 68,000. What we hadn't included in the base budget of 980,000 for the income predicted was income we will be getting, which is a new stream of income on planning performance agreements as a result of development consent orders, which we think will be in the region of 40,000. We're also getting a government grant to help us towards biodiversity net gain of 10,000. And we are predicting that there will be an additionality of at least 50,000 on our large scale development proposals, because we have already got Rackheath planning application in. We're expecting our Beeston growth, and we've also got those ones already in the system where fees have been carried across, as we would need to do for Taverham, and we have got lots of large scale reserve matters coming our way forward. The posts will be monitored against the base budget, and those above the existing cost will not be added to the base budget, and each year we will have to make sure that we will be predicting enough income to cover those additional posts. I'm not going to say anything other than please support, if you can, the recommendations outlined in 7.1, and here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that, Helen. Ian?
I'm happy with the report.
Did you want to propose the recommendation?
I'd certainly like to propose a recommendation. And the recommendation is on page 213, and it is for Cabinet to accept the proposed changes of the planning team and the intention to fill the current and new vacancies.
Okay, thank you for that. Jonathan?
I'll second that, Sean.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions, comments for Helen? Trudy?
Yeah, I think my only concern with this, I've actually mentioned to Helen before, is that if we don't hit this extra income that we're predicting, and then we've got the extra officers already in the base budget, that concerns me because, as I said, we're just hoping that it does continue. So that's a worry.
I think Helen said they weren't in the base budget. They were going to justify them, but
Well, I just don't understand how they're going. If you've got these extra officers, there must be somewhere.
So we will have to review on an annual basis. So if we've got any vacancies and there isn't the income or the work to justify those, then we won't be filling those vacancies. So that's the way we will be able to monitor it. So I quite agree. If you've appointed someone on and we are looking to advertise on a permanent basis, we won't be looking to, obviously, we want to retain those staff, but we do know through the Greater Norwich Local Plan and the existing growth that we've got predicted that we do feel that our strategic growth will be coming forward on an annual basis. But I do get your point, which is why the additional income that's going, that we need to finance these, a couple of the posts, we will always have to have a look at having a review in case we haven't got that income coming forward. But I am quite confident with the large scale developments that we've got coming forward, we should hit that. But we always carry at least 2 vacancies, which we would just look to review and see whether we can fill and justify.
Yeah, I guess that's my worry, that we're relying on having vacancies and we might not. That's my only worry.
Can I just add to that, if I may, Chair? Because I think what we would look to do is obviously how could we use those resources in a different way, and obviously seconding people into different roles. We know there is a national shortage of planners, especially in Norfolk. There is other ways that we could look to recover perhaps some of those costs. So there would be other opportunities to be able to look at that. And I'm very confident that we could offer a really good service.
okay, does that give some reassurance? Yep. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, so the recommendation on page 213 at 7.1 has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you for that. That moves us on then to item 16, being the forward plan at page 216. So I'd ask Cabinet to receive that forward plan. Are there any questions or comments for anybody that want to highlight in there? Trudy?
Only to say, I thought originally the temporary accommodation paper was coming in July, and now it's September, but I might have it wrong, but I thought originally it was earlier.
It does look like it's September. Is there any reason for that? Does anyone know? Sorry, I'm looking around now. Keep your head down, Jamie. I can't see.
I can take away and find out.
Yeah, if you could take away and find out for us, because that was something that was very urgent before, and I think that still is something we'd like to see come forward as quickly as possible to put us in best place to be able to facilitate additional temporary accommodation, or in a slightly different way based on what's in the business case. So if that is possible to bring that forward, that would be useful to do that. Did you want to come in, Jamie? Sorry.
Chair, sorry, yes, I can enlighten a little bit. We've just entered into a contract with an organisation called Campbell to Kell, who colleagues will remember helped us with the original piece of work around what a best-in-class housing system constitutes. They're just taking a bit of time to work through collecting the right evidence to put in front of Cabinet to ensure Cabinet has the right information on which to make a decision. So to me, it feels like time well served, although I absolutely recognise the need for expediency on the piece of work and very keen to bring it to you at the earliest opportunity.
Thank you for that clarity. I think that there's 2 elements here. One is our policy that we're trying to establish moving forward, which I assume would have within that, which is the piece you're referring to, the mechanism for the business case that we could then put any numbers in and see what comes out as such to have that comfort. So it's just, we're not in that place at the moment, which I appreciate, but we just would like to get there more quickly if possible. So I'll leave that one with you. Okay, anything for anybody else in the forward plan? No? Okay, so we'll receive that. That moves us on then to item 17. So I will move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business, because otherwise information which is exempt information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, would be disclosed to them.